How's it going, guys? We're back with another book review. Today we have White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Now, I said I'd do one of these per week, but I had to make an exception for this one just for the love of the game. Now, I went into this book blind. I bought it off of Amazon, not knowing anything from the plot. I did read a couple Dostoevsky before. I read Crime and Punishment earlier this year. I'm reading The Idiot right now. And if you read him, you know his stuff is usually dark. We're talking like murder, guilt, existential dread. Those are the kinds of themes that you'll see with Dostoevsky. So you can imagine my surprise when I open this book, and it's a romance, essentially. As always, we're going to start with the man behind the words. Fyodor Dostoevsky was a 19th century Russian author that is credited with being among the best novelists of all time. His most popular works include Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, and The Brothers Karamazov. His dark and twisted stories are tantamount to his hard life. He was arrested and sentenced to death, almost executed. They literally had him lined up for a firing squad, only to have his sentence changed last minute to hard labor in Siberia. So, thank God for that. We got these amazing books. Now let's look at the plot. Our story follows an unnamed narrator that lives in Petersburg. Usually when Dostoevsky doesn't name his characters, it is thought that they are a reflection of himself in the character. This guy refers to himself as a dreamer. He's socially awkward, terrible at talking to women especially, and spends most of his time living inside of his own head. For the sake of clarity, I will be referring to him as the dreamer for the entirety of this video. Real quickly, I wanted to talk about how the book is structured. It is divided into 6 sections. The first 2 sections are the first and second White Nights. The third section is told in Nastenka's point of view. And then the third and fourth night correspond to the third and fourth meetings. Finally, the last chapter is the morning after the fourth night. So just some pretext for the first part. One night, our narrator is walking the streets of Petersburg. He sees a girl crying. He wants to approach her, but he is stopped by his timid nature. Suddenly, another guy starts rapidly approaching her. The dreamer rushes in to push away this stranger. The dreamer and the girl fall into conversation as she appreciates his chivalry. The girl reveals her name to be Nastenka. As they walk her home, they agree to meet the next day. However, just before they part, Nastenka tells the dreamer that he mustn't fall in love with her, to which the dreamer agrees. Upon their second meeting, the dreamer tells Nastenka about his uninteresting life with grand flowery language. Following this, Nastenka shares her story as well. She's been raised in isolation by her overprotective blind grandmother, who literally pinned her to her dress so she couldn't leave the house. One day, a new lodger rented the upstairs portion of their house. Nastenka grew a crush on this lodger. One night, Nastenka sneaks into his room to profess her love and to run away with him. The lodger turns down this request, saying he could not support her as his wife. He promised her, though, that he will return in a year with newfound money from a new post that he has in Moscow. She explains to the dreamer that it has been more than a year since then, and he knows that he is back in Petersburg. In order to dispel her worry, the dreamer proposes to send a letter to the lodger. They agree to meet the next night and discuss what the lodger sent back. On the third night, Nastenka eagerly awaits news from her suitor. She finds none. This drives her into a fit of depression. The dreamer tries his best to console Nastenka, which improves her mood. It is then that the dreamer realizes that he has fallen for Nastenka. He realizes that his love will go unfounded when he sees how excited Nastenka seems to see the lodger. As they sit waiting, Nastenka has some lovely words to share her gratitude with the dreamer. She says, "I like you because you haven't fallen in love with me." Later, she adds, "Goodness, what a friend you are." Essentially, he gets friendzoned. In response to this, the dreamer thinks to himself, "Your hand is cold, mine burns like fire." Easily one of the most heartbreaking lines in the book. When the fourth night comes, there is still no news from the lodger. This breaks Nastenka even more than the night before. Seeing her condition, the dreamer cannot hold his secret anymore. He tells Nastenka how he feels. Reasonably, Nastenka goes crazy and doesn't know what to do. However, she realizes that the lodger didn't care for her nearly as much as the dreamer did. They spend the rest of their night joyfully walking around the town, talking about their future together. Finally, a happy ending for the dreamer and Nastenka, right? Unfortunately, towards the end of the night, they run into the lodger. Suddenly, all the plans Nastenka and the dreamer made for their future fell through. She runs to the lodger's embrace, leaving the dreamer to sit and watch. The morning after, the dreamer receives a letter from Nastenka. She apologizes to him and says that she wishes she could love them both. Holy red flag. I think it's safe to say that the dreamer had the right to be pissed after what Nastenka did. However, in a surprising moment of character development, the dreamer finds peace knowing Nastenka is happy and wishes her the best. This shows the purity of the dreamer's love and the strength to move on. For my review of the book, I really enjoyed it. As I explain later, it's quite a refreshing tone shift from the darker Dostoevsky that I read. Also, if you look at the length, a lot thinner. You can knock this out in 1 or 2 days. I think I got it done within a weekend. As always with Dostoevsky, he does really well at humanizing his characters. He conveys emotions so that they sound like real people rather than just characters. And you just can't help but feel for the lad. He gone through a lot. You just gotta... For the song that reminds me of this, I got Do I Wanna Know by Arctic Monkeys. I'm also getting Less I Know the Better by Tame Impala, and for the Sticky Finger fans, Laika. Those songs kind of have like the abandonment themes in it. Yep, that's all I have for you guys today. Take care.